What's up, guys? So I'm going to show you some basic band exercises you can do for a total body workout. So what we're going to do is we're going to do one exercise for every body part. Now these are unanchored exercises. What I mean by unanchored is we don't have to attach them to anything. So we're just going to anchor them with our own body. That means you could do this anywhere. You could do it on top of a mountain, you could do it on the beach. Matter of fact, just to prove a point, we're actually going to do them today on a paddle board, which is going to be an extra challenge. One of the nice things about bands, you're working stability, you're working core, so now you add to that having to balance on a paddleboard. I have no doubt that one of us is probably going to take a dump in the water. So, with that being said, let me jump into the exercise. I want to show them to you here on dry land before we venture out onto the paddleboard. So like I said, one exercise for every body part. So we're going to start with legs. We're going to do an overhead squat. What we want to do, step on the band right under the arch of your foot, nice and centered. You don't want it under your toe, you don't want it under your heel. We're going to squat down underneath of it and we're going to press it overhead just like this, and then we're going to squat down. The nice thing about keeping your hands over your head is it promotes good form. A lot of times when people are squatting with a bar, they have a tendency to bend forward, and a lot of the range of motion is coming from their back, not from their legs. So by keeping our hands overhead, like I said, we have better alignment. If you start to see your hands creep out in front of you, that tells you that you need to go ahead and get more upright. So you don't want to see these. Keep them right over your head, straight back up. All right, so now we're going to move to a bent over row. We're going to start the same way that we did as with the squat. So we're going to anchor this under our feet, shoulder width apart. Now, one of the keys to using resistance bands is you want tension all the way through the range of motion. If I were to grab up here, I don't have any tension. So what I want you to do is reach further down, both sides. Get that tension at the very bottom, and then we're gonna pull up. So I want you to focus on pulling all the way back up, get that little bit of a hand turn. You see my hand rotate? So my thumbs are facing forward. As I pull up, they turn out, so my palms are facing forward now. Start it by pulling your shoulder blades back. So here's a couple tips. One, keep your back nice and flat. Matter of fact, almost a little bit of an arch. A lot of people have a tendency to roll forward. So nice and straight. To do that, keep your chin up. Your body follows where your head goes. So chin up, little arch in your back. Like I said, think about initiating that movement with your shoulder blades by pulling them back, squeezing them together. You want that really strong squeeze. Don't do this with your arms. Do it with your back. So now I'm going to drop down resistance, use a medium resistance band. Before I was using a heavy or an extra heavy. But this chest exercise, you want to focus on good form, so we're going to drop down. Now, a lot of people have a hard time visualizing what to do with chest when you're only anchoring with your body because everyone's just used to doing presses. But remember, your chest helps bring your arms across your body, whether it's this way or even from underneath, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. So we're gonna anchor the band. Just like we did before, I want you to creep down with your hand position, create some tension. Now from this position right here, chest out, we're gonna bring our arms forward and in. Just like this. Keep your arms nice and straight. Now one of the tips here, I want you to focus on pulling your elbows up. Meaning if you focus on your hands, you're gonna have a tendency to start moving your arms like this. We don't wanna move in the elbow at all. And if you focus on your hands, that's what you're gonna have a tendency to do, is this movement. So let's not focus on that, let's focus on bringing our elbows up and close together. Now you notice with all these exercises, we're using a nice wide balanced stance, and that's why I'm picking a lot of these exercises since we're gonna be on a paddleboard. But even if we weren't, you wanna do the same thing. That's one of the nice advantages of bands. Develop that core strength, that stability, which turns into strength that you can use. It's functional strength. I could bench 300 pounds, but now if I'm on my feet, how do I transfer all that power if I don't know how to transfer it from the ground up, through my base and through my core? All right, moving back to the heavy band. So far we've done legs, we've done back, we've done chest. Now we're gonna do some shoulders. Now a lot of times I like to do single arm presses where I would step on it one side and go overhead. Since we're on the paddleboard, I think I want to keep things balanced. So we're going to do the exact same stance, nice and wide, shoulder width. Just like we got into the squat position, it's our starting position right here. And we're going to press it straight overhead. All right, with this exercise, we're primarily working the anterior or the front of the deltoid as well as the side. We don't hit a whole lot of rear deltoid, so we're going to do that in the next exercise. All right, so we're going to move to the medium-sized band. What we're going to do now is we're going to target our rear delts. With our last exercise, our press, we targeted the front and the side. So now we're going to mimic a rear fly like you would see in the gym, whether it's dumbbells or a machine. What we want to do, we're going to hold this in front of us with our arms nice and straight, hands just about shoulder width apart. And at shoulder width, you want to make sure there's tension in the band. In other words, don't grab it like this, because you can see I've got no tension. So grab a little bit closer, and if it's too hard, then you're going to want to make sure you drop down in resistance, and you'll see what I mean. So this is our starting position, and we're going to go all the way out, right across the top of our chest, just like this. Think about pulling out to the sides. Don't think about pulling back. Think about pulling out. Whether you're using resistance bands, free weights, or machines, you always want to focus on going out to the sides, not back. That's a common mistake I see, and what happens is if you focus on going back, you're going to squeeze your shoulder blades together, you're going to engage bigger muscles like your trapezius, and you're not going to isolate your rear delts as much. So focus on going out to the sides. And that's one of the reasons why I like this exercise above anything else, above free weights, above machines. For rear delts, resistance bands are my favorite exercise. We're jumping up into that extra heavy band. We're going to be doing biceps. Just like our other exercises, we want to anchor it the same way. Come in, shoulder width apart. Just like we talked about with back. The same problem with biceps. When people say, oh, there's not enough resistance with resistance bands, well, that's because they have too much slack at the bottom of the range of motion. So instead of grabbing it here, grab just a little bit lower. You're gonna have a little bit of slack in the middle, and that way when I stand up, it's nice and tight and I have plenty of resistance at the very bottom of the range of motion. Now as you're doing these, look at your thumbs. I want you to start with them pointing forward, and as we turn, you're going to turn them out to the side, and what that's going to do is that's going to lift your pinky up. You want to get that little bit of rotation in your hand, and that's going to give you a much better contraction in your bicep. Matter of fact, you can see right there, just as I rotate my hand, what that does to my biceps. So that's what you want to focus on. Thumb out, pinky up. All right, last exercise. So we've gone through every single body part. Now we got to move on to triceps. So I'm going to drop down from the extra heavy to the heavy band because we're going to stretch this a lot. Remember that bands have linear variable resistance, meaning the more you stretch them, the harder they get. So doing biceps here with a band is easier with the same band than putting it above our head, because now we've stretched it almost probably twice the length. So same position, feet shoulder width apart. We're going to press straight overhead. This is our starting position right here. Keep your torso nice and upright. Drop the hands back. Keep your elbows pointed towards the sky. Keep them in close together and straight back up. I like to actually look up toward the sky. I like to see where my hands are at when I'm doing this because it also keeps good alignment in my body. If I look forward, my head comes forward. You see what happens to my shoulders. If I look forward, shoulders come forward. If I look up, my shoulders come back. Helps me keep my elbows pointed up. All right, well, now we talked about all these exercises on dry ground. Now we're gonna have some fun here, put it to the test and see how we do doing this on the paddleboard. In the background there, I got my buddy Micah, flew out from California. He's a gym owner out there and also an avid paddle boarder. So I have no doubt that I'm gonna be the one taking the dump in the water. But that's okay, I'm up for the adventure, so let's see how this goes. We escaped the alligators so far. We didn't fall in the water in the workout, but we're definitely gonna get rained on.